Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Copy alarms.
At T plus 33 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Slick 40. After clearing the tower, we tilt or gimbal the engines to initiate a roll maneuver, which you may notice in the Stage 1 camera view. This enables the vehicle's antennas to stay in the best position for communicating with the ground. And in just a few seconds, we'll be throttling down the engines in preparation for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
And there's max Q. And from this point on, while Falcon 9 is still accelerating to an orbital speed of about 17,500 miles per hour, aerodynamic pressure on Falcon decreases as we approach the vacuum of space.
MVAC chill has started.
Now we have 6 events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with MECO, then stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start 1 or SES1, and the first stage boost back burn, and lastly fairing separation. After stage 1 shuts down its engines and separates from the second stage, the booster turns itself around in a flip maneuver to make its way back to land near the launch site. The boost back burn is a controlled engine burn that both slows the booster's forward velocity and then propels it towards its landing site. After boost back, stage 1 will continue to coast in microgravity to the highest point of its flight, called the apogee. It will then begin to descend.
Main engine cut off.
There we just heard MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage separation.
MVAC ignition.
And SES1.
Suspect startup.
Great call outs there, and a great view of that MVAC engine lighting up. So after boost back, it will then begin to descend under the acceleration of gravity until it's time to relight the engines for entry burn.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Great call out there for fairing separation. We will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel, Go Cosmos. Coming up next, we will have boost back shutdown, right on time.
Both vehicles are nominal trajectory.
So we're now about T plus 3 minutes and 48 seconds into today's mission. And our next major mission milestone will be the first stage entry burn, which will take place just past the T plus 6 minute mark. To start the entry burn, we will relight 3 of the M1D engines, which is really similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. The entry burn helps reduce the heat generated from the friction of the atmosphere and reduces the aerodynamic forces acting on Falcon, which helps maintain controlled flight and prepare for the landing burn. We are about 1 minute and 15 seconds away from the first stage entry burn. The Merlins on the first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve about 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. And at liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust that's greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. And the MVAC engine that you see burning on your screen has a much wider nozzle, and that one is optimized to 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. That entry burn coming up in about 30 seconds, where Falcon 9 will decelerate by firing its Merlin engines.
Stage 1 entry burn.
You can, great call out there, and you can see
Entry burn shut down.
the entry burn just completed. But you can see that that the stage 1 is still continuing to move really, really fast, even though it is slowing down. During entry burn, the vehicle is flying through Merlin's exhaust gases, or its plume, which deposits a
Stage
layer
1
of
FTS
soot
is saved.
on the vehicle surface. And that soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses. And with each flight, the soot builds up a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle. We have a landing burn coming up in about 30 seconds from now.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Great call for the landing burn.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And that was the 13th launch and landing for this first stage. And this landing marks SpaceX's 347th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
We have SECO 1 coming up in about
Stage 2 FTS is
15
safe.
seconds from now.
MVAC shutdown.
Great call out. We just had SECO 1, and we aren't expecting to have ground station coverage for the first 3 deployments today, so we'll be returning around T+1 hour for the final 2 deployments. So we'll see you then.
Good orbit insertion. Numerical time to suggest that the first BlueBird, second BlueBird, and third BlueBird have deployed.
Well,
Good copy.
we just heard
Looks
confirmation.
like video just came in.
Oh, we just heard confirmation of the first 3 BlueBird deployments. And so we are now about T+1 hour and almost 1 minute into today's mission, and we are coming up on the deployment of the 4th BlueBird satellite. That fourth payload deploy should be happening shortly. Continuing on with the recap, we had the first stage booster, which returned to Earth and successfully landed at LZ-1 about 7.5 minutes after takeoff. And we also had 2 successful ignitions and shutdowns of our second stage MVAC engine. And we are coming up on the fourth payload deploy. We have an awesome view of that fourth BlueBird satellite deploying. We had a really great view of the fourth payload deployment, and we should be having a similarly awesome view of the fifth payload deploying shortly.
BlueBird 5 deployed.
And there you saw on your screen successful deployment of the fifth BlueBird payload. And with that confirmation, we will bring today's webcast to a close.